Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of The Reference Point. It's taken me a few days to get this together. I did make a load of notes, but I'm going to keep it a lot simpler, I reckon. This is about really where we get our thinking patterns from. The Bible does say, as a man thinks, so he is. So that would be, as a person thinks. Not that I want to change the words of the Bible, but as somebody thinks, so they are. This episode really is about mental health. Now, I use the term mental health, but if I said mental health or somebody said it to me, I'd want to know whether they meant poor mental health, good mental health, or whatever. And I know we just use the term mental health, but there is actually a lot of poor mental health in our country, mainly amongst men. But surprisingly, there's a lot of poor mental health amongst children. And I'm not going to say mainly male children, because I'm not 100% certain, but it's children, which is very sad. Because I remember when I was a kid, we all have troubles when we're children. But confusion brings mental problems. And the Bible says, actually, that in kind of these days now, that we will have written on our hearts, you'll notice that you've got a conscience. And that conscience, I would say, is what God put inside of you, and that's God putting his laws and also his order inside of you. So when you do things wrong that go against God's law, you get a little check inside and you feel condemned, or you feel a little bit awkward, or you do things sometimes and you can't quite tell, because the world will tell you certain things are okay, but your own heart will tell you that they're not. And that's what I want to come about, really. That's where I want to come from, because I would say that we're all born with this conscience that, God says in these days he will put the laws and his statutes and his order on the hearts of his people. They'll no longer have to, hunt around to know what's right, because he has put it in our hearts. I don't know whether you agree with that. If you don't, do some research. Do some research. Try doing something wrong and then see if you feel bad about it. And so we have a system today. We have a world today that's more increasingly, even in my lifetime, calling stuff that I would have known when I was a kid that it was wrong. They've started to call it right. And even the stuff that they teach children in schools, I know this because of my own daughters, a lot of it is based upon opinion, especially the social and cultural stuff. It's based upon opinion rather than actual truth. And actually, when you get away from actual truth, from real truth, which the world now professes doesn't exist, there's no such thing as actual, real truth, absolute truth, like it's true. If I punch a rock, my fist will break. That's just true, isn't it? But the world doesn't like absolute truth anymore. So all it can have, if there's no absolute truth, it can just have relative opinions, can't it? What people think and what people believe should happen or should be right or shouldn't be wrong. And I'd hazard a guess that people do that because they want to do something that other people may think is not right. So therefore they throw out an opinion out there. I think the voice that comes through your telly is quite good at that sort of stuff. And it kind of occurred to me yesterday, I think it was. I was thinking about advertising and how I get pulled into the Amazon thing when I'm looking through Facebook, and Amazon puts up little pictures of stuff that I like tools and stuff like that. I'm drawn in that direction. And then I thought, well, what about the social stuff? You know, all the stuff that's going on at the minute. I won't mention too much. You'll know what's going on at the minute in society, why society is becoming more and more confused. And it's pushed through the same channels. And I think it works just like advertising. After a while, you start to buy into it. You start to get numbed up to it. And my point I want to make now with this little video is children, from the inside, they have this conscience. Yet from the outside, they will get a load of views, a load of opinions, a load of social stuff that doesn't agree with that. So they'll find themselves trying to walk against this voice inside, with society telling them all the time that I mean God. I'm talking about the voice inside. I'm talking about God. Let's get this straight. I'm talking about absolute truth. I'm talking about the Bible. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about Jesus. I'm talking about all that stuff that used to be called good, when all the stuff that we have now used to be called evil. But now the Bible's evil and the stuff that we have now is good, in the opinion of the progressive culture that we live in today. Unfortunately, them biblical truths are written inside of our hearts. Now, I would say, because my Bible says it, that God created this world, and he put together the framework of everything, including us people, walk around in, we live in, the order, the way things are. So, and then he gave us his truth, and this truth inside, so that we could walk pretty safely in this world that was created. Now, the danger of this kind of stuff, really, there's a couple of because I said, didn't I, the first, as a man thinks, so he is. So the first point is walking against that. I've actually met children that are on antidepressants. It wasn't heard of in my day, but I've actually met children that are on antidepressants. Now, being confused, I was a bit confused when I was a child, because my father bashed out a load of truth and then didn't live up to it. And then so I had that going on. I had my own conscience going on, and the stuff I was doing drove me into a place where I had to tranquilize myself to kind of crack on. And cracking on with what I was doing was perpetuated by this need to kind of tranquilize myself, and go, because I was getting further and further away from what was right. And inside, I knew that. And that made for proper bad mental health, poor mental health. It put me in places that I've already mentioned in previous videos. And a lot of the time I didn't quite understand why. So now, but I'm talking about the children now. And a point I would like to make, this is quite an important point. It's an important point. And if you've got children, I'll say that again, it's an important point. Because we make our decisions in life based upon a load of reference points that we have been told. Now, so basically, just to simplify that and say something real easy. If somebody tells me that a bridge, there's two bridges in front of me, and they tell me that the one on the left is going to collapse, or might collapse, the one on the right is going to be okay. If I go, so what I'm going to do then, if I've got any common sense, and I'm not after a burn adventure, I'll take the one on the right and it'll be safe. Now, what if that was a lie and it was the one on the right that was going to collapse? And I believed, I'd been told this time and time and time again, but when I got to this bridge, the one on the right was the one to take. I went across it and it collapsed. Now, we have children that have gone through school now. You will know this, because when I talk to my kids, they have a completely different perspective on life. Completely different. In fact, some of the things that I say, they think I'm crazy. Now, you will notice that in recent times, people in authority have almost bypassed the parents when they've give children choices. Without saying too much, you know what I'm talking about. Telling children they don't need to ask parents for permission to do certain things, and them certain things are life-changing things. One of them is a law that's just been passed in the upper part of this island we live on, about children being able to do things that would affect the rest of their lives detrimentally, in my opinion, fully detrimentally. And they've taken out of that equation the parents' advice. Now, ask yourself, it isn't about what you think about what they've given permission to do. What I'm getting at here is why is it so dangerous to the people that push this stuff that for the parents to have a say? Why is that? Why don't they want people? Why do they want inexperienced, immature people making choices without consulting mature, experienced people? Why is that? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? Because when I was a kid, I didn't really have much in the way of common sense. I didn't really work my life according to logic, and I certainly didn't follow any morals. So when I made a choice, given generally it was a bad one, and it took me to a bad place. Now, misinformed, I would say that people are nowadays, children, especially young adults, misinformed. You've only got to look around at what it's doing to people's mental health by the choices that they're making. So, the voice of reason comes from the Bible. The safe voice. In Isaiah, in the Bible, I'm sure I said this in one of the previous videos, God says, through Isaiah, he said, stand at the crossroads and see. Look for the old paths. There you'll find rest for your souls. Society is not interested in the old paths. And I would say, if you're in any confusion about the paths that the world wants to go down now, and the kind of pseudo-truth, that the guarded preferred opinions that have been pushed upon us, and then have a look at society and see what it looks like. Please leave a comment, like or dislike the video. I'll leave you with that, but think about it. Our children are the most valuable thing we have. They are the ones that will frame the future for their children. So it's up to us now, isn't it? If we know what's right, to speak about it. Have a good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. See you next time.